Welcome back to Morning Live. Now, are they safe or are they not? That is a question on many minds of women who use all these pads in the country. Kenyan women have been complaining about the quality of the pads that have been in circulation. Hundreds of women thronged social media under the hashtag #MyAlwaysExperience to complain and gave several examples on why they think that the pads they use in Kenya are not of the same quality as those developed in Western countries. To discuss this and matters menstrual hygiene, I'm joined by Ebi Wemie in studio, who will be now telling us more about what has been happening at the issue of quality. Welcome, Ebi.
Thank you.
Of course, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Now, the hashtag, #MyAlwaysExperience, that means there must be something, because now guys ganged up, compared the products from, for example, now American products and what our ladies and women are getting here in Kenya. It's kind of very unfortunate. I've seen the photo myself, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. So this has been a thing going on for, I think, the past 5 years.
Okay.
But I think the wave has just gotten to Kenya right now. This is something I even spoke on my channel as early as last year. I was already complaining about this. I believe it was about 2 years ago. Yeah, in South Korea, the women actually went on the street and protested against the chemicals that are in their pads.
Okay.
Like, it was a huge thing. They were even lying on the street and telling their government that something has to be done about their menstrual hygiene products.
Right.
And what came out of that is the government stepped in with their own KEBs in their country.
Sure.
And they actually tested all 800 different sanitary products, and they actually found 76 were of low standard.
Wow.
And one of them, called the Lilian pad, was actually taken off the shelves completely.
Wow.
And they actually had a lawsuit, like a class action suit, of people who are affected by these pads.
Okay.
So something was done, and it shows that when people come together and have a voice over something that they feel oppressed about, something can be done about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it a matter of complacency, being a market giant, that you end up making substandard products, and of course, as you've mentioned, chemicals and all those things that can endanger someone's health? That is,
Yeah.
do you think that's the case in this situation?
Yeah, I think it's also a matter of them just trying to create something that could be good for everybody, but then at the end of the day, compromising on the quality of it.
Okay.
Because you look at a product like Always, for example, that people are complaining about. They're the same brand that have a pad worth 500 shillings a pack.
Wow.
And they also have the same brand worth 50 bob a pack. So I keep saying, as a woman or just as a human being, you need to start asking yourself questions like, what's in this one that's 50 bob and this one that's 500? It's literally 10 times more expensive.
Sure.
And what usually happens is the expensive one is 100% cotton.
Okay.
But then in defense of Always, 100% cotton is actually it's expensive to make something that's 100% cotton.
Okay.
But that's what women need, because then it's unbleached, there's no chemicals, it's something organic, something good for the body.
Okay. Now, KEBS has actually come in with a press statement saying that following the concerns expressed on social media, KEBS has launched investigations that include extensive market surveillance and testing of this product to ascertain if there exists actually any breach of the quality standards. Now, the outcomes of analysis will determine the next step and the course of action, including market withdrawal of any substandard product. Must they wait for Kenyans now to complain about this? You see, once quality mark has been kind of just given the green light, that's it. People will buy. Now, in terms of KEBS, must they wait to know that indeed guys are complaining, now we have to do our tests? Are there loopholes here?
Yeah, there must be loopholes, because I feel like the products have to be tested as much as they've been given the go-ahead. After every few months, they should still come back and check, are you still following the standards that we have set for you or not?
Okay.
And I believe that KEBS actually also came out and said that they have tested Always and they found that there's nothing wrong with it.
Sure.
So, but my cry is, if women are still complaining about it, then there has to be something wrong. As much as you say you've tested it, then what else can be done? And people are talking about a boycott, like, for example, just boycott the product, which is something that I can't say I'm 100% for it, because at the end of the day, there are people who can still afford other brands, you see, but there are other people who that's all they can afford. So what can we do for them?
Absolutely.
Those ones who that's their only choice. So a boycott can work, but I think we should also do more in terms of pushing Always and pushing KEBS for them to give us higher standards, because we know they can give us higher standards as observed from other countries.
For someone watching who's not aware of the quality mark for these Always brands, what are the signs that are dealing with something so substandard?
Well, one of the major ones should be when you're having your period as a woman, whatever you're using, whether it's a cloth pad, a cup, a disposable pad, it should not give you, you should not react to it. Your body should not be reacting to it. That's one. And then two, there's also the issue of absorbency. You're wearing it so that it protects the blood from getting to your clothes. So if it's leaking and it's getting to your clothes, then it's not doing the job that it's supposed to be doing. The other one is the bad smell, and that's also what people are complaining a lot about. The bad smell. I don't know who came up with this idea for always to put perfume in pads. That's, I think, one of the worst ideas that have ever come out. Like, it gives you such a bad smell that if someone is on her period, you can just tell they're wearing Always. But this has not always been the case. That's why I was saying they've dropped on their standards, or something has changed and we don't like it.
Now the fragrance, is it that bad?
It is, because the thing is, when you're having your period, you know your blood is staying on the pad and it can stay there for a few hours until you actually change it. So when the air, when the blood is exposed to air, it brings out that bad smell. So when it has that bad smell and you're trying to cover it with perfume, it makes everything worse.
So I actually meant the fragrance from the pad itself. How is it? Is it that, you know, as much as it's supposed to be solely used for genital and this protection and everything, there's some sense of also fragrance. You've mentioned the reaction between the smell, and that just brings out some totally different smell. Now, let's talk about consistency. 50 bob, 500. Now, with the 50 bob part, how does it look like? And maybe the 500, does it look the same? Is the quality? I really don't understand that part.
Well, physically, it just looks like a regular pad.
Okay.
It actually looks very pretty. They did a very good job in making it look very, very attractive.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's not doing the job. It's actually causing more harm than good. So, and the one for 500, by the way, that 500 pad is not like sold anywhere. You won't like get it just at any other shop.
Okay.
They're sold at selected shops. And even then, the moment they are stocked, they're out immediately, you know, because they're very good quality, and it's something without chemicals. But then you see, not everyone is going to afford 500 every month, and you know that's one pack. A woman will need on average about 1.5 to 2 packs, which means that if you're very heavy, you're going to need about even 3 or 4 packs. So we're talking of about 2,000 shillings, which is just too expensive for most people. So what we're now saying is create a product that can be accessed by the regular girl, the local mwananchi, you know. Yes, it's 50 bob, but make it worth it.
Absolutely. Now, of course, one reaction here, and it's very, very concerning, because Mercy, that is Tarino Nimu, says the smell, itching, burns. At some point, I was shocked at what's happening. I'm one of the sisters who have heavy flow and I need a solution. Aki, which is the best for heavy duty flow? Hashtag my Always experience. Now, she's actually, her question basically just revolves around choices now. How should solutions? Of course, now there's a loophole here. What next now?
Well, as you already know, I'm a very strong advocate of the cup.
Absolutely.
I truly believe, not just because it's my brand, but it's something that actually helps women. So apart from the cup, if a woman say they just don't want to insert things in their vagina in terms of pads or tampons, then the other very good solution is a cloth pad. So a cloth pad is basically just a cloth, but they make it into a pad. They're now being sold everywhere in this country. A cloth pad is good because, one, it's reusable for up to, I think, 1 year. And then all you do is just you take it, you wash it, you hang it, and you use it again. It protects you 100% the way a disposable pad could be used. Also, you can use it for 1 year, which means you don't have to buy pads every single month. And it's also good for the environment because you're not throwing anything out.
Absolutely.
The only downside that people talk about is you have to wash it, but I'm like, It's your own period, it's your own blood. So the moment women start appreciating their own bodies and their own blood and realize that it's a period, it's not, stop demonizing a period, then it will be very easy to use a cup, it will be very easy to use a cloth pad. I also use a cloth pad myself.
Okay. Now, I couldn't hear from Fanta Baridi says, the only reason it has gone on for this long, it's because speaking about your period was considered a taboo to breaking barriers.
Yeah.
That's why people are now opening up finally, and these loopholes are now being realized.
Yeah.
Is it something that has been there for so long, only that talking about it has been a problem to our parents?
It has been, this is something that has been going on for years.
Okay.
And like I'm saying, it's not just a Kenyan problem. Actually, I think again 3 years ago, there was this thing called Detox the Box. It was a hashtag. It was mostly in America. So these substandard products are not just here in Kenya, but it was also in the States. And if you follow the hashtag Detox the Box, you'll find so many people actually asking always in specific. They're like, stop putting all these chemicals in our products. And the result was they got a better product, you know. So, and that's what we are hoping for. That's why I'm saying a boycott may not necessarily be the solution. The solution would be, we know you can give us a good product. Give us that good product. Stop cutting on costs.
Now, men are also involved in this conversation. Does this mean also men are interested to know what is happening to our women? Because now, as much as they're complaining on Twitter, some are asking questions. What is happening? Any help? You see, sometimes solidarity, putting heads together and just pushing for this one agenda is very important. Do you think now men are interested more in just knowing what is really happening here? Men
actually don't realize how they can directly be affected by a period. I was actually reading a story about a woman who, you know, for the longest time, women were getting all these rashes and bruises and everything, and they used to think it's their fault. They didn't think that it's something that they're using that's causing it, until they switch brands, and then they realize, oh, I'm no longer getting the burning and the irritation. It must be what I was using. So there's this, one lady was saying that actually at some point she was accusing her husband of giving her an STI. She thought she had an STI, and it brought such a rift until she realized, oh no, it's this product that I'm using. Because it will take such a long time for you to realize that it's actually what you're using for your period that's causing all these infections and all these things that you're getting. Because something that like always has been there since as long as I can remember. I mean, it's the very first pad that I used. So how come all of a sudden when 10 years down the line, I'm like, it will be the last thing that I will suspect, because I've been using this thing for such a long time, but then you don't realize that the standards have actually dropped.
Absolutely. You're not taking a short break. When you come back now, Abby will be telling us more about the solutions to maneuver through this issue of always and quality, the porousness, the loopholes. Keb's also trying to investigate all this, but coming back after a short break, we're touching base on all this, what you discussed. So that means they're afraid. Just a minute. Welcome back to Morning Live, and this conversation is getting kind of sensitive, because as it is, that brand is being avoided by so many people. But maybe just back to you, the fear of other women, the influencers you've talked about, they're afraid to kind of guide these other women who follow them also for inspirations. What do you think about that angle of where maybe I don't want to talk about this brand because I'm afraid, you know what I mean?
And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have right now, is the fact that we have influencers in this country. Most influencers in this country are women, but you find that very few women are actually talking about this issue. As much as it's a trending topic, it's even in the news, I'm here speaking about it, but then you find that these women that we follow and we look up to, especially the young women, they usually recommend lipsticks and shoes and restaurants and all this. But when it comes to such a sensitive topic as menstruation, which is core of being a woman, they're now afraid of talking about it. And that goes to show how much it takes for how much it takes for such a big company to have an influence even on our own influencers. The fact that they feel that if they speak against it, then it might hurt their chances of getting future work, which I just feel is such is selling yourself, is selling ourselves short, you know. Because then if you're a woman and if you have this platform, why not joining this conversation? Why? And even if you're for the product, let's assume you're for the product, then why are you not speaking about it? It's a conversation. We're not dictating whether you should be for or against, but all you're saying is have the voice. But then at the end of the day, it shows you how big P&G is, that it can silence other influencers not to talk about this thing.
Wow. Let's talk about grace caps.
Yeah.
The last time you were here in studio, it was a good story. Now, follow up. How is it so far? Distribution in schools, now guys embracing it. How is it for you so far?
So far, so good. I am very happy that more and more women are opening up, especially after this whole Always saga and people looking at what else can I use.
Yes,
you know, most women did not even know that there's something called the grace cup.
Wow.
So it's only when the conversation is coming out, then people are like, oh, you mean there's something else I can use apart from or from a pad or a tampon? And then, but what I'm more excited about is that even like right now we're working with Kakamega County, who've actually ordered for 1,000 cups that they want to distribute to their girls in Kakamega, in the schools and in the villages, you know, just to let women know you don't have to use one thing. You don't just have to use one thing. You can actually use several things and find what works for you. I mean, if a cup does not work for you, have you tried a cloth pad? If a cloth pad doesn't work for you, have you tried anything else? You know, so you don't have to be stuck in that one box. So the fact that you're making this progress and the fact that more and more people are actually, they're curious. Maybe some are not buying immediately, but they're curious. They want to know more about this thing. Is really is a positive change.
Absolutely. In schools, so far, have you tried maybe to go convince some schools? Of course, Ministry of Education has to be involved here. Like the Kakamega County itself, that's a big move actually, you know, to take to the people. In schools, how is it so far?
So far, we've done the biggest one that we did recently was for Kitale. So Kitale, it's a private organization that just bought the cups for the girls there, and so far so good. I mean, it surprised even me, to be honest, because we were distributing it to primary school girls, and you know, with primary, they've just started their period, so they're not very confident about their bodies and things like that. But they actually took it very positively. I cannot say it was 100% success, but it was about 90%, which is still good, which I can still take. The reaction, because now people are green about this. Do you offer the know-how or maybe just the technique on how to use this? Of course, it's something that is new in the market. Now we're used to our parents maybe telling us, yeah, this is the product you have to use, but now the technique, how to use it. Are they afraid to just try this new product? Or maybe you've instilled something that indeed they're taking it positively? You know, usually when I start my training, I don't just train on the grace cup. We usually start the conversation of menstruation in general. So it's not about always or the grace cup. It's about just menstruation. And normally I will have both boys and girls. Like part of breaking the taboo when it comes to menstruation is to have both boys and girls. Because the moment you start separating boys, that's when the stigma starts. So we sit down, we have a conversation about menstruation, and then we now go to what options do we have when this time of the month comes? What options do we have? And then we start talking about it. Then I introduce the grace cup. Then I show them how to use, and I also show the boys. Because I feel like this is a topic that boys should also be involved in. Because I mean, we're living in a generation of single dads. So what if you're a single dad with a daughter? Will you not talk about periods with her? So we talk about it. I teach everyone about it, and we have like a very sister to sister conversation basically. And I feel like when you introduce such a topic in that way, then it more like the mind opens up more, and you feel more like, yeah, maybe this is something that I would want to use.
Now, reusing it again, is it an advantage, the fact that now the other brands, of course, the pads kind of just dispose, that's it. Now, do you think that angle of it being reused, sterilization also part of it and being reused, is it playing kind of a pro that are actually just supporting your campaign in terms of just distributing all this?
Yeah, definitely. In the sense of, one, we're saving the environment. There's nothing that you're throwing out except for the blood that you're just disposing in the toilet or in the shower. Two, it's also saving on the money, because as much as we're saying that a pad is 50 bob, there's some people who cannot afford that 50 bob every month. And again, what people don't realize, which is something that has really come out during this whole campaign, is one, women do not just, most women will not just use one packet. They'll need maybe 2 or 3, which means we're talking on average of 150 shillings if you're buying this very cheap product.
Yeah.
So 150 bob for people who live under $1 a day is already too much money for them. And then 2, people usually call it a monthly period, but it's actually, it's misleading calling it a monthly period. You should actually call it call it a period cycle.
Okay.
Why do I say that? Because there are other women like me, for example. I bleed every 21 days. So everyone has their own length, which means if I bleed every 21 days, that's I bleed every 3 weeks, which means that there are some months where I bleed twice in the same month. And there's so many women like me outside there.
Okay.
So you can imagine the cost implications of someone like me who has a 21-day cycle. So it means that, for example, in January, I'll bleed at the beginning of January, and I'll also bleed at the end of January.
Okay.
So if I'm to be the one who's been given, when you donate a pad and you give them 12 packs, it means that per year, I have 17 cycles, when on average, a woman will have 12 cycles. So what happens to the next five months or 5 cycles? What happens to me as a woman? So there's so much that still needs to be done, and people still need to really understand how a period works.
Okay. Now, to the young mothers, especially those actually just given birth, can they use these grace cups?
No, unfortunately not. Simply because your vagina at that point, whether you've given birth through CS or the regular way, your vagina at that point is very vulnerable. So you don't want to insert anything, and not just those ones given birth. Also, if you have any infection, so say you have like an STI, you also, because again, your vagina is very vulnerable. Or if you've had any sort of surgery, you also cannot use it until that bleeding stops. Even also if you've had an abortion and there's bleeding, you can also not use the cup. But otherwise, everybody else is good. Virgins can use it. Women with coils and all of that can use it.
Okay. Take us through the cost again, because I think some people maybe have forgotten about the cost of the grace cups.
Yeah. So we have the 10-year cup. So there's a cup that you buy. It's 27 ml. It's our biggest cup. And that will last you 10 years. It's made in South Africa and it's 3,000 shillings. Then we have the economy cup. The economy cup it will last you 5 years, and it's 1,500 shillings, made in China.
All right. Now, the reporter of this situation on the ground where the free sanitary towels actually being distributed to schools, but again, you know, Kenya, sometimes the cartels come on board and now they'll start selling the same things that was meant for school children for free. Now, so far, if you've been following up on that issue, how is it so far on the ground?
I think I even mentioned it on our previous interview here. I'd already foreseen this problem because this has also happened in South Africa. And they said the government is really trying their best, like giving out the free pads. It's only the implementation of it that will fail. And it's already failing. I mean, there was this other head teacher, a whole head teacher who's been entrusted with pads to distribute for free to the students, is selling to the same students. And it caused such an uproar. And I was like, this is just one that you've discovered. How many others are suffering in silence? You know? So the government is giving you these things to distribute for free. They're trusting you as the school headmaster to distribute, and you're selling it to these girls. So they're making a business out of something that should be given out for free. The other solution would be maybe the county itself distributes it every month, but then you see the logistics of it. It would be very expensive every single month going to every school to distribute, and also the disruption of classes, you know, because now it will mean one day a month everyone has to come into the hall, and you know, and this is valuable time. So it's just the implementation that needs a lot of work.
Absolutely, it's true that. Now, the statistics about young girls who are not attending classes courtesy of actually periods, have they reduced, or are we seeing improvement in this case? Because now at some point in this country, so kids not going to school because they're actually menstruating. It's actually, that was very unfortunate. Statistics, how are they right now?
I mean, I cannot say for everyone whether it's improved or not, but the fact that we're actually having this conversation, bringing it to light, and actually having men onto the table and discussing this, I think maybe in a few years we're going to actually see the impact that these free pads have had on the education system.
Now, there's a petition in Ohio, and of course, where students actually came out guns blazing, and they had a petition to actually push the schools and, of course, the parents to have a locker in school for them to access this material. That not only shows the importance of these the pads and everything. Now, do you think, of course, men have dispensers, free condoms, take the condoms. Do you think now we will actually kill this conversation of my always experience, whereby the government just needs to invest just a budget aside to make sure there's confidence about menstruation and, of course, giving our young girls back-to-back supplies of these pads?
Yeah, at this point, I still must commend the government. Like, I mean, in Africa, I think they're one of the leading countries when it comes to issues menstruation in the point of giving pads and all that. But having said that, there's still a lot that needs to be done. So, for example, like you've just talked about the condoms, like why are men, like an erection is optional, but a period is not. So why can't we have those disposable those dispensers in our bathrooms where women can use? One of the reasons will be you will kill industries. Unataka PNG wa kule wapi?
It's true. It's true that, but also, yeah, I understand. But you see, the fact that already complaints are coming in, the experience, that means the consumers are not happy. So the government, of course, who are the same people distributing these things in school, do they need to protect our women? Yeah.
Yes, and that's why, back to what I was saying in the beginning, we need to fight for higher standards and not really a boycott. We need to demand that they give us a better quality product. If not, then get out of the shelf.
Okay.
Like don't sell anything at all. You either give us this standard or no product at all. Because if we push for that, then we will get it. Because like I said, this problem has not been there like 20 years ago. It's just the bigger the brand gets, the more they compromise on the quality.
Absolutely.
But then on that point, in defense of always, I know I'm the last person to be defending always, but then in defense of always, in Kenya we have a unique problem in the sense of counterfeit, fake products.
Everywhere.
So
everywhere.
And it's not just for always. It's not just for pads. It's for things like diapers. We're having fake diapers. Our babies are having rashes, and then you realize, oh, what I bought is actually not Pampers. This is something completely different. Pampers even has no idea there is something like that under their name. We have fake chewing gum. Even chewing gum. There's this a few months ago in Mombasa, they caught like a whole warehouse of fake PK. Wow. So it's many women are actually buying always that is not even always. Like always even have no idea that this product is under their name, So, and that's why when it comes to such products, it becomes, unless you actually know what you're buying, I mean, even the retailer in the shop could be stocking a fake product, not knowing.
Doesn't know about it.
They don't know. They don't know that they're having a fake product. So it comes down to KEBS and narrowing down and closing down all these fake people producing the fake products.
Okay. Now, when you talk about menstrual hygiene, it's a broad topic. There's so many antiques you can work around to make sure your hygiene is actually up to standard. But you see, when you're trying your best to keep clean and a product comes and lets you down, what can you give, like, advice to such people? Because now, yes, there's a loophole in the product, but you've been trying your best to keep clean, to maintain your hygiene as far as your menstrual hygiene is concerned, but the product lets you down. Solutions out of this now?
So, well, one thing is you can move to another brand.
Yeah.
I hear Cortex is good. I don't use it, but I hear that's what people are talking about.
Okay.
The other thing is also, if you must use a disposable product, then use one that says 100% cotton.
Okay.
Always also has 100% cotton product that I said is like 500 bob. If you have the money, then well and good. Because one thing is you do not want chemicals anywhere close to your vagina. You do not want. Because you don't know the long-term effects that this is having. I mean, look at the short-term effects. People are already burning, they're itching, there's bad smell. Now imagine what that is doing on your vagina. Every month, that's what you're putting in your system. Now imagine what you're doing in the long run. In the next 10 years, we'll be having cases of maybe people being barren or people having infection or giving birth to children with defects. And then we look back, we're like, but why? Why is it such a thing? And then we realize, 20 years ago, we were using this substandard product, And that's why I'm so happy that we're talking now and put an end to it now before it actually becomes like more serious than it is right
Absolutely.
now. The other option is, like I was talking about, cloth pads. If you don't feel like you want to use a cup or a tampon, use a cloth pad. And again, I'm not a very big advocate of tampons, again, because it's just filled with chemicals as well. And there are also counterfeit tampons out in this country. So you don't really know, am I using a genuine one or not? Also, the cases of TSS, toxic shock syndrome, that's associated with tampons. So there's a lot with that. So at the end of the day, of course, I will still go back to the cup, because the cup, again, it's made from medical grade silicone.
Of course, the cup has to be touched on, yes.
You know, it's medical grade silicone. It will last you 10 years. It's good for the environment, good for your pocket. What's the downside?
Thank you so much, Abby, for coming. And of course, shedding light on the issue. And of course, we just hope we'll get a solution to this before it affects so many people. Thank you so much for coming. We're now taking a short break, but when we come back, Mr. Sam Windy will be now talking to us about what is happening in the world of car accessories, your music, your system, and all that, coming after a short break.